So our brain has been built from the bottom up, and we share a lot of it, pretty much all of it, with our animal cousins. At the base level, in the brain stem, just above where the spinal cord enters our skull, we have what's known as the reptilian brain. And this is the part of the brain that we share with all animals. In humans, it operates from birth and is responsible for all the things that babies can do. So it can sense and relates to us. Basically, the only things it can is feelings of hunger, pain, and temperature, for example. So endearingly, it allows us to cry, eat, pee, poo, all these basic life-sustaining functions that we need to happen automatically when a baby is born. So this part of the brain is crucial in that it takes in all the stimuli from our environment using our five senses and reacts so that we can maintain like homeostasis, which in colloquial terms is a constant or set point for our internal functions. The next level up is the mammalian brain, also known as the limbic system, which we share only with other mammals and is the center for learning and our emotions. Importantly, this part of the brain monitors our environment for danger. It assesses what makes us happy or scared and determines what's important and what we can disregard. So this part of the brain learns and develops throughout our life based upon our experiences and what we do. So these two brains make up what is called the emotional brain. And this is a key feature of the central nervous system, which controls most everything we feel and how we function and respond to our environment. So the emotional brain is primarily responsible for our safety and will try to ensure that we mature, have sex, and pass on our genes. The top layer is the rational brain, aka the neocortex. Other mammals also have a neocortex, but it's much more developed in humans. Hence, we've been able to build planes, cities, and communities, etc., etc. So our rational brain is much more complex than our emotional brain, which is really very basic. So rather than an automatic pre-programmed reactions of the emotional brain, the neocortex, and particularly the frontal lobes, provides us with our extraordinary thinking abilities. And these make us unique in a way, allowing us to think and act rather than just react. And sometimes, which is very important for overriding our emotions. It allows us to reason, imagine, plan, predict, and reflect. So all the really useful stuff that makes our human experience unique. So what does knowing this mean for your stress? Well, every week I have someone severely stressed coming into my clinic who proceeds to, unpack a shopping list of issues like I'm just about to get fired, I just had an average review, like my partner hates me, my kids don't speak to me, I can't sleep, and my health is shot. You have to fix this, or you have to fix it right now. And if I remember a client from last week, it turned out that they really needed an answer to every single one of their problems, but they were still too stressed to sit still and listen and take anything in. So generally, I need to spend a session or two teaching them how to reduce their arousal or their stress and try not to focus on all the problems all at once. I always find that once clients become calmer, they mostly come up with their own solutions to all their own problems anyway, because they generally know the answers already, but they just can't access them because their rational brain, particularly the executive function part of the brain located in their frontal lobes, aren't accessible because they're offline. And as I always say to people when they're like this, we're just going to focus on calming down. You're smart enough to figure out all these issues if we can just calm. So the way this interacts is as follows. Information comes through the lower level of our brain. All that we can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell comes through the reptilian brain, whilst the limbic system, the next layer up, tells us what we need to focus on and what we can ignore. Now, You probably haven't thought much about the color of my shirt since the start of the video. But if all of a sudden it changed color, then that would register as new information. You take notice of that for sure. So I want to give you an example of how new and more important information, let's say life-endangering information, is treated. Let's take an example of us crossing the road. If partway across the road we see a truck hurtling towards us, we don't stop and allow our rational brain to take it in and process all this information. We don't stop and say, oh dear, that's a white truck, license plate YSQ 423 coming at us at 60 kilometers an hour. It's going to hit me in 3, 2, 1. We don't do this. We act impulsively and decisively, jumping out of danger. Because if we did wait for all the related messages to travel up the line to our frontal lobes to make an informed executive decision, we'd be dead. So the brain has developed a surefire survival mechanism that's been honed over millions of years, and you're not going to override it in your lifetime. When we're stressed or we perceive we're in danger, the connections to the rational or executive function areas of the brain are impaired. And instead, your emotional brain uses the input and makes an immediate, decisive and impulsive decision based around saving you in that moment. It doesn't think about the longer term or even the next moment. That's why we do and say really silly things when we're stressed that we often later regret. So you're not going to be thinking at your best when you're stressed. And the lesson here is don't try and solve any problems until you have lowered your arousal and your frontal lobes are back online. Please remember this. It's all about arousal.